Hello, everyone. Hello, anyone. Gordon Causey, as always, 1:30 a.m. on, it is now Sunday, very early morning Sunday where I am, 1:30 a.m., 8th of October. And unless you're living under a rock, I'm not going to go over the news too much in depth. I think everyone knows what's happened in Israel. Brief synopsis. Hamas, which is labeled a terrorist organization from the Gaza Strip, launched both rocket attacks. They dismantled the barrier, stormed into Israel. Fighting took place. People were killed. People were taken prisoner. Israel retaliated with rocket fire into the Gaza Strip. And the Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, has declared war, has said we are in a state of war. And I know I labeled this video Wars and Rumors of War, Wars and Rumors of Wars. And for those who don't know the reference, it comes from Matthew 24. I'll give you a quick reading of it. As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him, Jesus privately, saying, "Tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign of your coming and the close of the age?" And Jesus answered them, "Take heed that no one leads you astray, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will lead many astray. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise up against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places, and all this is but the beginning of the birth pangs." The word of the Lord, thanks be to God. If you're expecting the end is near, turn off this video now. I don't know how significant this is. It is significant. How significant? Time will tell. But it is alarming. There are other reports coming out now, apparently, and you can check this. It's in news articles. I heard it first and then verified that it was in fact being reported, and this is what is being reported, that the Taliban in Afghanistan has said that if Iraq, Iran, and I believe Jordan will grant passage, that they will send troops and will conquer Jerusalem. As I say, I heard that first from an Amir Tisfari. I'm not exactly sure how you say the gentleman's last name. He's a Christian in Israel. He delivered it to his church. And then I verified, and there are news articles saying the same thing. And this is a thorny issue. We have a war currently between Russia and Ukraine. Now we have this conflict between Israel and Hamas, between Israel and Hezbollah, is long standing, and there have been sporadic, these things happen. How far will this one go? Time will tell. The only thing that's alarming about this is the scale of the attack on Israel, and the fact that, and I don't know how long ago it was, but it's 10 years or more, that Israel has had a defense system referred to as the Iron Dome. And basically, it is a system that is designed to shoot down rockets like those that were used when Hamas attacked. It's supposed to preclude that from happening. And there are suggestions that Hamas in of itself would be incapable of disarming this iron shield. And it's being said that in order to successfully launch these rocket attacks, that there's a degree of sophistication required, jamming frequencies and things of that nature, that Hamas would not be able to do it on their own without help. Now, when I heard this suggested, it was suggested that there are only two countries in the world capable of that level of technological militaristic sophistication, and the two named were Russia and the United States. I question whether or not China might have that same capability. I don't know. There is one thing I would like to underline, and that is at times of war, the first casualty is the truth. And so, as a consumer of the news with no inside knowledge, obviously no back channel into anything, all I have, like anyone listening to me, is the news that's coming at me. And is there misinformation, disinformation in that news? I don't discount the possibility for 1 second. My biggest fear is an escalation. And I'm not suggesting that there is Chinese involvement or Russian involvement or involvement by the United States. But at the same time, I look on it and I say anything's possible. And these are challenging times. Right now it's 1:37 where I am, Eastern Canada. Not Eastern Canada, Central Canada more, but the Eastern time zone. It's 1:37 here. It would be about 8:37 in the morning in Israel right now. And the speed at which this is evolving, things are likely happening right now. As I understand it, Hamas has captured a number of prisoners, and Israel likewise has a number of Palestinians in custody. And what Hamas is saying is that they have enough prisoners, enough hostages to effect an exchange and to liberate the Palestinians being held by Israel. And goodness knows what's going to happen. One thing I am somewhat sure of, when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine, there's an overriding narrative that Ukraine is the Ukrainians are the good guys, the Russians are the bad guys. If you watched my channel before and you listen to me talk about this, I don't talk about it much. But the simple fact of the matter is, when it comes to military conflict, in terms of Russia and Ukraine, no side. I don't, a pox on both their houses. There are no good guys in war. When we talk about Israel, though, what's interesting is I imagine that as I'm speaking right now, and maybe they've already gone out, there are individuals who are going to be putting out videos, and they're going to have their eschatological, their end times, prophetic, biblical timeline, and they're going to say, we're here at this point. And I'm not going down that road. If we are, I mean, if you read Jesus's words, these are but the birth pangs. There's still lots more to play out. So if you're a Bible-believing evangelical Christian, It's early. Interestingly, in that same dissertation that I just read of Jesus talking about, how shall we know of your coming and the end of the age, on top of wars and rumors of wars, he says earthquakes. Well, Afghanistan just experienced within the last few hours a, an earthquake of a magnitude of 6.3, which is significant. That's similar in size, similar in magnitude to the earthquake that hit the Bay Area during the World Series. And I'm trying to remember the year, thinking it might have been 1989. I forget exactly, but Oakland was playing the San Francisco Giants in the World Series, and a major earthquake hit. And it was in around that 6.3, the same as what just happened in Afghanistan. Now, when it comes to wars and rumors of wars, there's always been a war every single day I've been alive, I would imagine. I was born when the Vietnam War was just ramping up. That went until, that was 1966 when I was born. The U.S. kind of really dove in deep around 1968 when Lyndon Johnson was president. That's when they had their big surge. And then after that conflict, there was Cambodia, the killing fields. There was war in Mozambique. There's been war constantly going on in Africa. There was the war between Iran and Iraq, then the war with when Reagan was president in Panama, in Grenada. War. So war is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And it's always ongoing. The only difference now is and even in my lifetime, there's been war in Israel. I'm just going off the top of my head, just flying by the seat of my pants, just giving my reaction to things right now. And, there was the 7-Day War, the Yom Kippur War. Israel's been attacked by Syria and by Egypt and I think Jordan as well. And when it comes to, it's interesting because I know a lot of people like to put up the Ukrainian flag. Either they'll fly it at their home or their residence to show their solidarity with Ukraine. Social media profile pics will have the Ukrainian flag's colors, also the corporate logo, corporate colors of Blockbuster Video. And I wonder how many people will put up a flag put up Israel's flag. I wonder. When it comes to, there are a lot of people, a lot of individuals are anti-Israel who sympathize with the Palestinians. And I'm not going to speak to that one way or the other. It's a volatile situation. And as I always say, there are no good guys in war. But there is something sitting deep inside of me that basically says this has to happen. When Israel was created as a nation state in 1948, in the middle of the Arab world, it almost seemed inevitable. And as we've seen, conflict. And Israel, it'll be interesting to see when it comes to the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. There are so many components to it. My view from 100 miles up is that it's simply a matter of which corrupt power structure is going to rule the day. Is it going to be is Ukraine going to be dominated by a corrupt Russian apparatus, or is it going to be governed by a corrupt Ukrainian apparatus? And that conflict that pox on both their houses. But what's interesting is did Hamas have help? And if these suggestions that Hamas would not have the military technical capability to circumvent or defeat the Iron Dome defense network that Israel has, if they didn't have it, who did and who helped them? And I find it hard to believe that the Americans would, and that leaves Russia, that leaves China. And when you talk about those two countries, one thing that isn't widely reported on, but you can read into this, they signed, I think it's about 2 or so years ago, Russia and China signed something called the No Limits or a No Limits partnership. And so maybe there's not much to differentiate the two if they're working in concert. The world is changing. The U.S. is waning, and China is waxing. China is the rising power. The United States is in the decline. When Saudi Arabia normalized its relations with Jordan, that used to be the brokering of that type of rapprochement of relations historically, certainly since the end of World War II, that would be the domain of the United States of America. Now, that rapprochement was brokered by the Chinese. They are the new power in the world. And the United States, the declining power in the world, has been joined lockstep with Israel ever since Israel came into being. And this is going to be, it is said to be a Chinese curse. And the curse is, may you live in interesting times. And these are interesting times. We have war in Russia, Ukraine. Now looks like potential for war more than just this. My biggest fear is escalation. Dominoes start falling. Read up on the history and the timeline of World War I and how the alliances came into effect over weeks and months. Dominoes start falling. Will dominoes start to fall here? Only time will tell. I made 3 predictions April 30th. So far, I'm batting 0. My first prediction was the declaration of a climate emergency or a war on climate change, and I said that would my projection, my prediction was that it would happen before the summer ended. Well, we're couple weeks into the fall, and there has not yet been any declaration of a climate emergency. The closest that has happened is that Joe Biden, President of the United States, signed an executive order of some description creating something called the Climate Corps, like the Marine Corps or the Peace Corps. Now you have the Climate Corps. And as far as I can gather, the only thing the Climate Corps is going to do is it's going to be an activist organization that's going to be going around stirring up fear about climate change. They would put it as raising awareness. I put it down to stoking fear and trying to elicit irrational responses from the general population. I think they should be wearing brown shirts. But it wasn't a declaration of a climate emergency. The second prediction was that by the fall, and this one we're in the window, is that we would see a return to mandates and COVID measures and maybe even declaration of a new health emergency around COVID, RSV, flu, maybe something else, and even the potential for a return to vaccine passport type mandates that we saw last time, and maybe even worse. And where I live in Canada, they still haven't seriously rolled out the new updated, this new XBB 0.1.5, what they're saying, the new formulation that targets that subvariant. They haven't even rolled it out seriously in Canada. It's going to be coming in the weeks ahead. I've heard that kind of a date is 2 days from now, is the 10th of October, when things are going to start to ramp up more seriously. We'll see. So that was my second prediction. And the third one was an expansion of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Or I said the possibility of conflict elsewhere. And I cited two examples. I said one could be China, Taiwan, and I said, the Middle East. It's always a hotbed. And here we are in the Middle East, and we've got goodness knows what's going to happen. Anyway, comments are on. Anyone wants to leave one up, go ahead, or comment down below. Haven't got much more to say. I wonder how many people are going to put up an Israeli flag on their profile. I will not be. I'm not playing that game. I don't have the Ukraine one up or the Russian. And I'm not going to have up anything for the Palestinians or for Israel. Interesting times. Anyway, God bless. If you like, the whole thing. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see what happens tomorrow and in the week to come.